Start in the bottom left-hand corner with the blue Terran player from Dragon Kaiser Gaming, Oliveira, our world champ.
Not just the world champ, but also the man who absolutely dominated the Chinese region in the past. But this man did get the best of him one time in a truly epic grand finals. It was 3-0 for Oliveira, and then Cyan became a Super Saiyan and won 4 games in a row to crown him the champion of China for a bit. That was awesome, but I think it also sparked the fire of his opponent to then just truly level up and become the world champ in the end. But let's see if he can do it one more time. Obviously a big best of 5 for this man, our Chinese brothers. It's Cyan.
Yes, it is. Big series for him. I like thinking that he won, like Oliveira lost, and it was just like, man, I'm gonna do better. He's just like, boom, world champion. It's like, yeah, not gonna lose in China anymore, am I? Kind of funny.
No, but there is, like, as much as we can meme about it and we can joke about it, right, and it's kind of funny, there really is a chance that, like, Oliveira obviously kind of grew accustomed almost to winning the ESL Masters, China, or DreamHack Masters as we called it. And the moment that didn't happen, that he really just had a little moment where he's like, okay, now I'm being silly, you know? I'm Oliveira, or back then he was Time. I'm freaking good. I have shown in the past in foreign events that I can duke it out with the very best players in the world. And now I'm not even winning my own region. And like, are you kidding? Like, I truly got to step it up. I got to take it to the next level, take it a bit more serious again. And perhaps that one loss is honestly what led to his greatness later on.
Nope, very, very true. It's, you know, we always talked about it. It is kind of easy with the previous regional system, just be happy with where you're at, right? And just to keep on, you know, cashing in the checks sometimes, right? If you're very confidently top 1 or top 2, even, you know, it even goes down further than that, where some people may have just been very happy to be top 8 every season. They're like, cool, that's enough for me. I maintain this level. But yeah, if Oliveira maybe having that push and extra reason to just kind of put the extra work in, put the extra hours in, may very well have been what sparked everything that then happened back in February. Because this Reaper is going to find that probe, so that's going to be a nice catch for Oliveira early.
Yep. How are you feeling overall about Oliveira's level at the moment, Waddy? We've obviously seen him here in action. He has done his thing. He is in the semifinals. Are you impressed? Is it what you expected, or did you thought he would look even more dominant than he's been doing so far?
I think he's one of these players that, when I watch him play, it always seems like he plays to the level of his opponent. Because I never really see Oliveira, like, stomping people, right? I think there was, like, maybe that... I guess I'm thinking of, like, Gamers Without Borders, where it's like, he did struggle quite a lot there. But then when he really needed to turn it on, he turned it on against Special. When it came to, like, playing on the Korean server as well, so the ping was a bit better. Yeah, I guess maybe I thought he would be maybe a bit more convincing, because it's been, like, super stomping or anything. Like, he has had, like, you know, a hurdle here and there. So, yeah. But I guess it doesn't surprise me either, because I never saw Oliveira as the guy to kind of just stomp through a region either. Like, he always won, but he would never win, like, 4-0, 4-0, 3-0, whatever, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair. As we've got a Phoenix opening coming out of Cyan here in Game 1. Unfortunately for Cyan, it's a triple CC build on the other side of the map. It's one of these scenarios where as a Protoss you're like, well, cool, at least I won't die early on. But it's also not a dream scenario if you ask me. Because Phoenixes, what makes them great units is that it's kind of inevitable that you're going to get a couple of SCVs, right? Phoenix are just too quick, they have a lot of HP, they've got that energy to spend, so you're always going to get a few SCVs. But killing a few SCVs against a triple CC build, that just doesn't really do a whole lot for you. Meanwhile, Oliveira is still going to get a whole lot of firepower out of all of these Marines with quick +1 apparently as well. And I feel like it's always scary as a Phoenix player here to go up to 3 bases, right? Do you do it immediately now? Well, what's going to happen then if 18 Marines decide to run to the other side of the map before Stim is even done? You just can't really defend that. Apparently Cyan says, well, I'm going to try anyway, Roddy. And watch me whip, watch me nay. Well, I'm excited, mate, because I do fear a little trying to go up to 3 bases this quickly as a Protoss.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, to me, it feels like you're heading into, like, the worst possible case scenario. Because, yeah, your opponent's got super fast 3cc, but then what he's building behind it is very good against what you're building, so your own fast third Nexus is I think, in danger a little bit, right? Like, it's not going to be an easy hold. You will have to invest defenses there. He's got the Rubber Bay coming up, so potential move into Colossus by the time Marines arrive with Stim. I mean, Stim's halfway done. I guess it depends if you really just go before any sort of starport support, or if we are going to wait out those medevacs.
You're cutting it close, right? But yeah, exactly. If you're Cyan right now, you're like, man, if I were you, I would really wait for those medevacs, man, because that is exactly what Cyan wants. Right now, in a straight-up fight, Cyan's army is terrible. By the time he's got one Colossus, especially near a battery, he's going to be better. This was basically that moment that I was referring to earlier, where this will always happen. It just doesn't hurt the Terran as much as if they would have gone for, let's say, double gas. If they open up double gas, later CC, then losing a couple of SCVs really hurts. But now Oliveira is chilling, triple CC, building 2-3 SCVs at a time, 3 meals at a time, and the Phoenix is picking up a couple of SCVs. It's just not very impactful. You still want to do it as a Protoss, right? Because you need to do something, but you also know that this is not really going to change what the Terran is going for and how quickly the Terran will grow.
The right thing to do, but yeah, just how much of an impact does it really have? Honestly, yeah, I'm with you. Not really enough of an impact. It's for SCVs feels it's like one round of SCV production, right? 20 seconds or so, and SCVs are right back up there. So yeah, it's tough, and of course you don't want to be too heavy on the Phoenix production because you want to make sure you have enough else to kind of deal with the Marine counter on the ground. Marine counter has ended up waiting for medevacs before really going to do anything, as we nearly grabbed a Phoenix there with the defending Marines. The medevacs are popping now, and combat shields is about to be done, so we might see our first push across the map. The first Colossus is out, and by the time we get there on a map the size of Altitude, it might be 2. In which case, I don't think there's really an opportunity for Oliveira to do much at all.
Now, pure Marine is definitely going to struggle. Even a single Colossus is intimidating there. But once the Marauders show up, that's where things change a little bit again. But don't forget that just because there are a couple of Phoenixes, that doesn't mean Oliveira can drop, right? We've seen that before. Yep, I could not have timed that sentence any better. I think there is a Xel'Naga Watchtower that's controlled by Cyan. The Marines in the center of the map tried to grab the Phoenix there. And I actually believe they got one.
Yep.
Like, triple Phoenix does not have crazy DPS. And is also not great in lifting Marines in the main base. As another Phoenix falls. Yeah, it's a game where maybe it doesn't look bad for Cyan, but I would be incredibly uncomfortable in his position at this point.
First few Marauders are showing up as well. I mean, we're getting to the point where maybe you can actually do something towards the Colossi. We are going to drop in the main base. Phoenix in position, couple Stalkers as well. The reinforcing Colossus showing up there as well. As you drop the super battery quickly, all the Phoenix are going to die. That means you can kind of lift and get out of here. Maybe there's actually one Phoenix left, and the medevac will try and skirt out of range of that for a little while. We'll get to the natural, and we are still setting up the attack on the low ground third. Which if we can get a good jump onto that Colossus, it might just melt. Super battery's already been used in the main, so that's a factor. We're actually just going to drop more towards the main base. Oliveira seems happy just to keep the action going in this regard instead.
Yep, and obviously I think in previous fights, Cyan got a tiny bit fortunate that a Colossus just popped and it was there to help out immediately. That's not the case this time around. The Robo dies with a Colossus that was 60% done. Now these Zealots and that one Colossus should still be good enough, but the damage has already been dealt. I don't like diving on a Colossus, by the way, with pure Marine. I feel like that almost never goes well, but Oliveira says, well, Roddy, I am the world champ, mate. And a couple of 1-1 Marines stimped forward and killed the Colossus.
Yup, just knocking it on down, and now they just left over to kill a bunch of probes, and I was with you, man. I kind of like looked away because I was like, okay, what's happening at the front? Because this Colossus is about to force a lift up. I go back, the Colossus is dead. I'm like, what? This was not what I expected to go down at all. Oliveira making just a bunch of cool calls. I really thought he was going to dive the third, but he's just never had to. Just dropping into the main again was exactly where Cyan was weak. There was a perfect target in the Robo facility on the edge of the base. It was just easy pickings.
Yep, there was this Adept controlling the Xel'Naga Watchtower that gave Cyan the initial heads up, but in a weird way that heads up almost backfired, because first he flew his Phoenixes over the remaining Marines in the center of the map, and then Oliveira already knew that there is a good chance that Cyan saw it, because he saw the Phoenixes going towards the right, so he unloaded again before he even dropped the first time, grabbed another Phoenix, and yeah, you cannot play Phoenix Colossus without any Phoenix. Then it's just Colossus, and Colossus by themselves, and they're not going to trade all that well. They need a bit of backup. Upgrades truly matter too, of course, in these little exchanges. And yeah, 1-1 Marines with a little bit of medevac help can apparently stim forward and snipe a Colossus. Cyan is going to try to buy some time and crank out 2 more big Robo units, but Wadi, I think that this one really is all over. This Terran army is big. It's intimidating. We were wondering what Oliveira was going to show up. We said we haven't really truly seen him dominate his opponent so far. Game 1 is complete domination by the world champ.
Yeah, no, if you asked me that question, Roddy, after game 1, I'd be like, yeah, this is the Oliveira that I could have expected to see, I guess. he did not mess around at all. Looked extremely confident and comfortable at pretty much every single point during that. So, yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? Like, he just played really, really well and ends up up a game very easily, honestly.
I do think that maybe Cyan got a tiny bit unlucky, right, with the build order he chose, where it's like Phoenix, and you're like, ugh, triple CC. Now, the main reason why triple CC is not the standard for Terran is because those builds, they really struggle with 4-gate blink, stalker aggression, and sometimes there is a bit of lack of scouting, so even just very economic blink into 3 bases, double forge, I think those are scenarios that are difficult for the triple CC player. A proxy Oracle, the very first Oracle, would have a lot of potential, but when it's like Phoenix at home while taking gases, Phoenix a Robo, that's just a pretty sweet build order setup for the Terran. And I don't want to say it's a build order win because you still need to do a whole lot of things correctly as the Terran. But yeah, I mean, if we are looking at the world champion of StarCraft 2, we can only assume that he's going to do a couple of things correctly in the first game of this second semifinals. No need to picnic, I think, for Cyan. You can just kind of forget about it and be like, Altitude is a weird map. It plays out different than a lot of the other maps because of how large it is. And that's clearly not the build he wants to go up against. Let's see what he brings to the table in Game 2.
Let's see what we're going to do. We're hopping on towards Dragon Scales, which, I mean, map by map, I feel like we've already had, like, maybe even the Protoss pick, because Dragon Scales, to me, usually feels pretty good for Terran. You get across the map early, it's short, there's great tank positions you can take. There's just a lot of, good aggressive things you can do, so kind of intrigued as to whether Cyan can figure that out and to hold on. I'm going to check the vetoes just to make sure what the setup was veto-wise, but yeah, I do feel like this should be the pick of Oliveira. It was.
Yeah, makes sense. It is obviously a good Terran map, but I feel that Altitude doesn't necessarily have Protoss written all over it. Like, there are some moments where you can get almost a build order win. Imagine if the man would have gone for a Widowmine drop. 2 Widowmines fly into 3-4 Phoenixes on the other side of the map. Yeah, then our Protoss would be absolutely cooking. But that wasn't the case. So in the top left side, we are looking at the main base of the world champion of StarCraft 2, taking a very convincing 1-0 lead here in the semifinals. This is DKZ Oliveira.
In the bottom right, our red Protoss needs to step it up a notch, and hopefully a little bit of a better build order choice from him based on what his opponent's doing too. From SSLT, Cyan.
Maybe we get some Blink Stalker action here. Dragon Scales does have a decent amount of surface area to blink into the main base. We saw Australia find a lot of success with it yesterday. And just throughout the entire tournament, right? Protoss players do not shy away from the 4-gate Blink Stalker opening. It's just so solid that as a Protoss, you can almost say at the very beginning of the game, like, hey, Terran, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And what's the best Terran response against it? I got to say, I guess, if I look at some of the games that Clem has played, I think I like the 1 barracks into factory into 2 more barracks, right? Like, that one seems quite solid against 4-gate Blink Stalker. But not even that guarantees the Terran a win by any stretch of the imagination. It just gives them a lot of units to contest it, to battle it. But it still comes down to the execution.
Oh, absolutely right. Doesn't matter if you have the units, you can still, even the Protoss side can still outplay you in a big way, positioning well, choosing the right blinks, the right targets. It can be, I mean, this is why you see that build have so much success, because it's not just down to kind of, oh, do you have enough or not? There's so much more to it as our factory. Drops down here from Oliveira. Is going to be a little bit more aggro this game. Expansion will be slower, and I like that change of pace on a small map like this. Obviously gives you a good little advantage to potentially just start throwing the Protoss player off very early on.
This is exactly the kind of build that Cyan would have loved to go up against on Altitude. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Cyan has not shown us yet what he wants to do here. As we are reaching 150 gas, we'll go Stargate once more. So I actually think I kind of like that. And we'll all see how it comes down to the execution and obviously the follow-up scouting. As Oliveira is just kind of chilling with his Reaper. Maybe he expected one of the Adepts to still be in the main base. Yeah. And obviously that is the case. He's just playing it very safe. I guess he clearly does not want to lose this Reaper.
Yeah, doesn't want to take any risk, is now going to just roll around to the other side, but you shouldn't be able to see anything here because the pylon is not part of the wall, so Stargate will remain hidden unless we have some kind of grenade in, but then you're grenading into an Adept. Yeah, he could have had a chance to poke around, jump up, get into the main, and potentially see what's going on. But you're right, he was extremely cautious and not really trying to kind of push the issue at all there. Just maybe wants to keep this alive to combo with like the Widow Mine drop, grab an extra probe at some stage. Because yeah, he was being very certain about it.
Yep. And I do feel that we should know the timings very well of when, you know, that adept comes out. So I think it would have been worth it. Obviously, it takes 3 hits for an adept to kill the Reaper. So the only way that really would have ever gone bad is if Cyan somehow gets 2 hits off and then gets the Shade. And Cyan had a Phoenix first, goes Phoenix into Oracle. So the Phoenix is our scouting unit, and then the Oracle will make sure that I guess we have enough DPS in case we have to go up against double, triple Reaper, double Hellion. Phoenix will at least scout his medevac immediately. It's going to force Oliveira to unload. It's an interesting build as Oliveira has the CC, but obviously it's not on location yet. It's going to float over now. Marine count and a pretty early tank after a 2 Widow Mines. And one of the Widow Mines is in the center of the map. The other one is just kind of walking around with the main army. So he's just kind of putting the Widow Mines in a defensive way, hoping that they connect with Stargate units.
Yeah, at this point that might be the best thing you can do. Get a shot here, shot there. Obviously doesn't insta-kill a Phoenix, that's full HP. It does bring it low, much more targetable later on. The Phoenix is now hanging back, which means that it looks as though Oliveira is ready to kind of go press forward again. He does have that, you know, aforementioned siege tank. And he will try and take some amount of positioning with this. I mean, what have we really got here from Cyan? He's got 5 Adepts, and then it's the 2 Phoenix and the Oracle. The Adepts can be scary, though. They're going to move forward, but the Widow Mine's going to get to go off. Oh, but on the one that already died.
Yeah, that could have been a whole lot worse. Cyan was very eager to dive on that army. Should be fine here, though, with the amount of Adepts that he has. Ideally, the Phoenix lifts the tank, right? We just need to make sure that the Widow Mines, multiple of them at this point, do not splash all over the Adept. Oliveira definitely cut work production a little as he's still down 12 workers. I want to believe that there is a chance that Cyan gets a great fight here, but it really comes down to where we let the Adept Shade finish up. Is he going to go for it? Nope, still not. Just still feels that time is on his side. Phoenix is going to try to come in from the back. There is that Widow Mine there. I still believe, though, that Cyan should be fine, but he's obviously making life hard. The longer he waits, the scarier it gets.
And he's going to lose another gateway, so he's going to be down to 1 gate until the new ones finish up. He's going to start losing pylons at this stage as well. The Phoenix are trying to shut off reinforcements. Sure, I get it, but there's a lot to do, and that Revelation actually didn't tag the Widow Mine in the back, so that one will not get lifted here. That will get a blow up on the Phoenix, or the Adepts, actually. That works, and the Adepts are just disappearing. Phoenix get rid of the Liberator at first, but the Marines continue, and a new Liberator shows up with reinforcements like this. Oliveira is going to have no issues at all fighting through this, and now he can just push up into a natural that has a single Adept inside.
Waiting for those 4 extra gateways to kick in, but now every second feels like a century as another Adept falls. The Phoenixes will finally lift one of these Widow Mines in the back, but Oliveira's units are literally in the natural of Cyan. Cyan is sitting on money, so he's going to try to warp him. Now he can't even have fast warpings anymore in the natural, I believe, because I think that pylon is a tiny bit too far away. He's going to warp in on the left side at the 3rd base instead. Oliveira committing for the Nexus. Oliveira gets the Nexus. At least the Liberator got picked off. And I guess in the end, our Chinese Protoss will be able to clean it up. But we have to ask ourselves to cast the question, Waddy, at what cost?
At what cost? He's losing every single Zealot here as well. This Adept, unfortunately, may not have enough firepower, and so those Marines kill that off too. And I'm going to say at a very high cost, Roddy. I mean, you lose the natural expansion. The Protoss player gets a 3rd base up, which you can mine from. I mean, I guess that part's reasonable, but of course, Oliveira is not being stopped behind this. He's got stim and combat shields over halfway done. With medevacs popping out, it feels like the next wave is on the doorstep, and my biggest concern is that this army of Cyan just sucks. It's 4 Phoenix and charge lots, which, okay, Phoenix charge can be a very good combo, but it's a combo that works well on kind of overwhelming and with good numbers, and that's not something that Cyan currently has in the slightest.
Nope, and ideally you want to get an armor upgrade as well, right? For the Zealots to survive just a little bit longer. Widow Mines are going to be a problem. 1 or 2 mines is something that the Phoenixes can lift, but there are already 4 Widow Mines out there. So he does pick up those 2 mines that just popped out of the factory. That's going to give Cyan a little bit of hope. Clearly a little comeback is needed. One saving grace for Cyan was that during all of that, he didn't really lose any probes. He lost the Nexus. But he did do a very good job in at least keeping all those probes alive that he built very early. And while he was under a lot of pressure, he did warp in that 3rd Nexus. But it's just going to be hard to get a great fight. What Cyan is hoping for, I guess, is that Oliveira moves out with, let's say, 12, 14 Marines, couple Marauders, 2-3 Widow Mines, right? Then maybe Phoenix Zealot can get a great fight. Or if Oliveira grabs everything, maybe Phoenix Zealot can kind of backstab, lift a couple SCVs, Tiny Zealot run by. Yeah, when Oliveira does do nothing right now for a minute, he's just gonna have such a big bio army, and that's where these Zealots are going to get absolutely evaporated.
Yep, the critical mass of just Bio versus Zealot, where Bio just starts to win out instead of Zealots being too tanky and kind of winning out. Yeah, once you hit that point, I just don't think there's anything here for Cyan. That's why you need some kind of splash to help out or to have overwhelmed at an earlier point. Widow Mines are terrifying for these Zealots as well. Oh my goodness, because why not? Just hit the center with Zealot there and really do the most with that first mine shot. Just in case Oliveira needed any additional help. We do lift up all of the mines, and maybe for the moment there's a bit of hope. But man, they're kiting backwards. Nothing's really dying for Oliveira apart from the mines. And he's just trading very well. Although a few Zealots on the other side at least cause him to look back home for a moment or two.
I think the Cyan got a bit fortunate there because he saw Oliveira move all the mines at the same time. Otherwise, he could have never done that, right? Because he has no observer there, so he would not have possibly been able to lift all these mines. Maybe he could have gone for some Kamikaze Phoenix. In the end, that went about as good as it could have gone for Cyan. As he says, well, Roddy, let me donate a Phoenix, so it got a little bit less good. He holds. He found a couple of SCVs, goes up for another base. I gotta say, well done. But Oliveira did not have to move all these Widow Mines at the same time. I think if he just moves 1 or 2 at a time, then it becomes so much more complicated for Cyan to battle that army. Because this observer that we're looking at right now was definitely not out yet back then.
It really was not. We have another obs across the map too, as the Phoenix keeping an eye on this force. Oliveira is once again beginning to get the idea of moving across the map, and I still feel as though if he does that, he's going to be in a pretty good spot. One Zealot goes down early. There's a couple units to deal with Zealots in the natural. Plus, Widow Mine should be absolutely fine here, in fact. So it's going to be a pretty easy cleanup. And yeah, counterattack doesn't do anything. And the Bioforce is stemming at what is still a very lackluster army. Robobay is just now finishing, so yeah, this
amount of bio, you're just not going to run into that with Zealots anymore. We're going to try to drag the Widow Mine shots above the Terran army, but that is not going to work. Too much firepower, way too many Marines, way too many Marauders. And Oliveira takes a quick and easy 2-0 lead in the semifinals of the ESL Masters Asia. I mean, he is the world champ for a reason. He's just playing well, Waddy. This is just clean, very solid Terran play, where Oliveira is playing so well that he's making Cyan look pretty average. And Cyan is not average. Cyan is a very dangerous Protoss who has taken out some of the finer players in the European scene in the past, is capable of making very good runs within this region. Got a victory over time or Oliveira once, but today it seems that Oliveira says, mate, don't even think about it. Like, I know you still got fond memories of that reverse sweep, and you were the king of China once, but that ain't happening today. And I'm gonna make sure to erase any hope that you may have as quickly as I can in this best of 5, because this Oliveira is intimidating to go up against. He's playing very well, very clean. Like, what did Oliveira really do wrong in this previous game? Maybe moving all the mines at the same time.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. And even then, it's like a part of the game where he's probably like, oh, I'm in a great position. He moved all the mines, he lost them. It's like, oh, well, I don't win on this fight. I'll win with the next one, where I actually looked even 3 times more convincing. So, yeah. I can't pick a fault, really. Like, the first push was very well handled. He really made the most of it. And then he just macroed perfectly behind it, and he knew that he didn't need to do anything fancy. Just kept building units and have eventually just overwhelm, because that's kind of how TVP works.
And what was cool as well is that we even saw Oliveira attempt to find some success with things that didn't really come into play, with like scattering the first 2 Widow Mines around the map. Like, he definitely tried, made a conscious effort, and like, hey, I might get an Oracle here, I might get a connection on the Phoenix here. And if that doesn't happen, that's okay. Then these Widow Mines will just sync up with the rest of the army, and that is exactly what happened. I still felt that maybe the very first time, before that 10k sieged up, the Marine number wasn't that high yet. The second Widow Mine wasn't there. I actually think you activate Pulsar Beam, the Phoenixes lift, and the Adepts first shoot at the Marines, and then they shoot at the Cyclone and the tank. I think the quickest possible fight was the best fight for Cyan there, right? 1 Phoenix, Oracle, 6 Adepts. Let's go ahead and trade out. You've got a great economy. You're economically ahead. An even trade there would have been an amazing trade for Cyan, but just the longer he waited, the worse it got, and especially because he lost power to the gateways. It's like, yeah, he had a whole bunch of gateways going up in the main, but by the time that those finally kicked in, he lost the initial gates, and he was already bleeding out adept after adept. It was perhaps, in hindsight, not the right choice to wait, and he should have just gone for it as quickly as possible. Can he turn things around here in the semifinals of the ESL Masters Asia? On the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of a great Chinese Protoss. He is down 0-2. This is Cyan.
Against the world champion in the top right from Dragon Kaiser Gaming and looking like a world champion the way he's playing today, Oliveira.
You know what's kind of cool, by the way, about the potential Oliveira versus Coffee Grand Final, which, well, looks very likely at this point, is that it's kind of like the roles are reversed of the IEM Katowice Grand Final. TVT, best of 7, but one guy is the overwhelming favorite of the other. But we know that the underdog is good, is scary, and can play damn good StarCraft. So, yeah, tables are turned.
Will it be Oliveira's time to Cyclone drop and get nothing done, or Tank drop and get nothing done? Repeatedly? Maybe.
Would be sick for Coffee, and
Yeah.
Coffee will actually feel like he is the world champ if he gets the best of Oliveira, the best of 7 Grand Finals. Man, that would be such an amazing moment for him. I can see it. I can definitely see that being a very competitive final, man. Coffee just does not strike me as the guy that's an easy pushover for anyone. Because in all the games that we've seen from him, we hype him up, we praise him, we give him love. You think back of IEM Katowice, where he had a great victory over Zone. And that wasn't a lucky victory, right? That wasn't, oh, Proxy Marauder, he got the best of him. Then that was just really damn good high-level StarCraft. So I think there is a good chance that we're going to get a very entertaining Grand Final, if that will be the Grand Final. We cannot count Cyan out yet. He's done it before. Back then he was down 0-3. He won 4 in a row. That one seemed unlikely. This one seems unlikely. But let's see where he's going to take it here in Game 3. As we open things up, Wadi, with the Sentry.
The Sentry opening. It's such a... usually such a non-opening in PvT, and yet... now we've seen not quite a Sentry opening earlier from Firefly, but he did go like Stalker Sentry pretty much every game. And I'm like, man, how often do we really build an early Sentry in this matchup? But here it is from Cyan. Turns out Sentry's not actually that good DPS-wise, and it's going to have a bit of trouble against the Reaper, honestly. And a probe has to pull to help protect the Sentry. Yeah, not a fight you see every day.
No. For all the right reasons, because this is not really what sentries are made for. Oliveira's like, hey, I'm liking this fight, as he still wants to get the sentry. It's just a weird attack animation in general. Like, in StarCraft 2, we kind of always know which fight you can and cannot take with certain units, when you have to get in and out of range with the Reaper. But if there is one awkward interaction, it has to be the Reaper against the Sentry, because it's A, not something you practice very often, and B, the Sentry attack animation, to me, Wadi, even after all these years, I'm not totally sure when the Sentry wins or loses a close fight. Like, that's just, you attack and you hope for the best, because it's like tickle, 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 and we'll see if the other unit dies or not.
Yeah, no, it's, it's kind of funny, right? The Sentry just... I never even think about a Sentry trying to deal damage. It's just not what Sentries are for. Like, yeah, sometimes I guess they attack, but usually we just see them kind of attacking in our larger army and we don't pay any attention to them. As Oliveira is going to go for the same kind of setup he did last time with the Widowmine Marine drop and also walking one Widowmine across the map. And it's just straight up 3 gates of production coming alongside a robo facility from Cyan. So, in theory, you should be able to get enough units up to help against this, but of course a good Widowmine connection could do a lot to change that. And, we've got one Widowmine that's going to walk in at the front, and the rest is going to drop in from the natural.
No, there is an observer. Can we kill that Widowmine? Yes, Cyan gets the kill on that Widowmine, as there was one more mine waiting right outside of the natural, but very good, clean defense there. You can really see that maybe he's a bit more confident in his ability to control the Stalkers and the Adepts. The Stalkers are just one of the most micro-ball units in the Protoss arsenal, with or without Blink. If you don't go up against Stimmed Bio, you can obviously still micro the Stalkers for days. So, well done, clean start, bit of a weird opening. With, the Sentry first, 3-gate rowboats, very defensive. But maybe that's just what Cyan feels that he needs, because he's like, Oliveira is aggressive. He is clearly trying to be in my face here in this series on a map that's not altitude. So let me just go ahead and play it safe, and we'll take it from there. So far, so good. But obviously, with the fact that this next is a little bbit later than it is with many other builds, I wouldn't say it's a dream start for Cyan, but very acceptable.
Yep, no, absolutely. Is Raven, Medevac, going to join up overhead with the mine. The Marines and the tank all joining in. Oliveira is going to, perhaps go pushing across the other side. His potentially going to get this Observer, but now there's going to be Stalkers here, and this turns into a bad idea, so Cyan responds and helps protect his own Observer. And it looks as though Oliveira is going to think twice about still moving across the map, going to pull it back for the moment. I mean, I kind of liked his army if he got across the map and everything. You got a couple tanks to solidify with. There's no tech units up just yet. First Colossus is about to pop. He had a couple tanks and he had the Raven Matrixes available too. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like he can get across the map in a reasonable manner, so just pulls it back, sits at home instead, and we wait for the next step.
I wouldn't disagree with you there, because you look at the Stalkers, it's like, okay, if it's just Stalkers against a couple of Marines, yeah, they can kite for days. But if it's Stalkers and a tank sieges up, you're like, okay, I don't have Blink, and all that micro potential goes out of the window. And then you look at the rest of the army, you're like, well, that Colossus is good. But then you look at that Raven, and you're like, okay, an interference matrix, and we are in all sorts of trouble. But just the fact that Cyan was active there with the units in the center of the map, picking off a couple of Marines after Oliveira tried to go for that Observer, that is now giving him all this extra time for all these gates to finish up, for charge to complete, +1 to complete, and yeah, out of the 3 games, definitely 7 minutes in, I think the best game for Cyan. Not sure if I'm truly feeling this move out right now, as Oliveira has picked up a couple of medevacs, and they're basically flying in range of the Protoss army.
Oh my god, the Raven!
And the Raven, though, that is a big pickoff, Vardy. That is a big pickoff.
Yep, gets a last-second anti-armor missile down, but yeah, that's huge, because honestly, the Raven with double Matrix available, that's 2 Colossi out of a fight for Oliveira to engage in with, so it's huge potential that's now just not available at all. We do have a couple medevacs down the bottom side. Stalkers are in position here, and our medevacs just trying to hang around, and they are going to loop even further to the south, and they are going to get in.
Yeah, but there is a Colossus here, and the Colossus should help out against the Marines. Earlier we saw Marines die for a Colossus. That is absolutely not going to work this time around, if you ask me, because these Marines did not have their 1-1 upgrades yet. They didn't even have stim initially, so this drop doesn't do a whole lot. Let's take a look at the third base of Cyan quickly, as the tanks and Widow Mines have sieged up. We tried to activate a Widow Mine there with a hallucinated Phoenix. Cool idea for Cyan. Unfortunately, it didn't quite come into fruition, but he's got that overcharged battery that's clearly putting in some work. Battery will fall in the end, but it bought time, and I do absolutely believe that Cyan can just run forward here, get on top of these tanks with a couple of Zealots with charge, and gets the cleanup. He defends the main base, he defends the third base. Cyan definitely stepping up his game here in game 3.
Very good job, just from Cyan defensively. It was really well said. Obviously caught the Raven at first, and then just got home straight away to prepare for these attacks. And yeah, it was just everything he needed to be. Oliveira didn't have stim even when that first drop was unloading too, so he did not have the damage output to really contest. And honestly, a bit of a misjudged situation from Oliveira. Like, he didn't have the power to drop into that main base, and yeah, the push on the third, I think, was okay. He got a little bit of value out, but of course, in the end, if you can't get an escape plan, you're going to lose out on a lot. He lost his tanks, his mines. So yeah, he loses out big time. Supplies are still okay for Oliveira, but, I mean, Cyan maintained all of his tech units, and that's a big thing, because now he's got 4 Colossi, and he's going to start adding in all the other tech as well. Possible disruptors, further upgrades, even, you know, actual Twilight upgrades, charge, now Blink. These are all things that are going to power up his army. He doesn't have to waste time replacing anything that he lost in the previous fight.
And imagine, by the way, if that Raven didn't randomly die in the center of the map, because then that double drop is terrifying, right? Because then the Stalkers without Blink, and versus that amount of bio, and the Colossus gets matrixed by that Raven, that would have been a very difficult army to clean up for Cyan. But yeah, once more, Cyan trying to create opportunities for himself. Sometimes you see people walk around in the center of the map, you're like, okay, what are you looking for? If there is nothing to gain, sometimes there is just nothing to gain. But Cyan, by trying, and what is this, by the way, as a couple of Vikings are just rallied into the bottom left side. Yeah, that was a bit shocking. But yeah, back-to-back times, Cyan, by being active with his Stalkers, gets rewarded. First, he pushes back the very first push. That could have been scary, after Oliveira ran into the Stalkers and tried to get the Observer. And the second time around, he picks off the Raven full of energy, and that would have honestly been a nightmare to deal with. So very well done, Cyan, playing a great game 3 here, showing us that he ain't going down without putting up a fight.
Nope, he is absolutely not, as he is stacked up here. He's going to lose his R2 initial Widow Mine, that's fine. His army is scary, plenty of Colossi. We mentioned the addition of the Disruptors. He's looking. He feels, though, at least confident enough to be on the map, which can obviously have Oliveira scared and maybe make Oliveira a little bit afraid of kind of doing things himself, as he is going to try and set up for 4th base. There's that going on that right-hand side. A little Zealot running in, not much to talk about. And everything just prepping, you know. We'll see if Cyan really wants to push. He's even getting a Dark Shrine because he's comfortably into the later stages of the game. He can think about doing other things like a Dark Shrine to set up aggressively from here.
Yep, and you look at the mini-map, this is beautiful map vision for Cyan all around. Yeah, it does feel that we are 1 or 2 Purification Novas away from getting ultra hyped, and maybe we've got a proper competitive series on our hands, but this game, at this point, it looks solid for Cyan. A lot of Terrans will not be happy entering this phase in the game, where it's like, okay, it's double Robo, double Forge, it's just a matter of time before the Dark Shrine is done. Shadow Stride is on the menu, and if there's one thing that the Terran players hate, it has to be the DTs with Blink in the late game of PvT, especially on a large map like Ancient, where it's just so difficult for a Terran to keep track of these invisible boys running all across the map and blinking into your mineral lines.
Yep, no, absolutely. We have a couple more Zealots already lining up and attack. Oliveira's with everything down this bottom side. Vikings thought they were going to get an Observer, but they actually get blinked on. Super Battery is already active, but it's healing the cannon at first. The Colossi are taking some shots. Big EMPs. Disruptors do connect, but not super amazingly. It could have been a lot worse for Oliveira, who now only loses 1 Marine again. He's got rid of all the Colossi, Roddy, and he's just standing and fighting. This fight has been great for him, I gotta say. The Disruptors have just not delivered in the slightest, and as these Archons fall, this base will fall. What a fight from Oliveira.
Beautiful fight, obviously, right before the Protoss upgrades kicked in. We did have a couple of Zealots finding economic damage on the other side of the map. I want to say, as long as we can keep our Disruptors alive, there absolutely is a chance here for Cyan, but he loses 3 out of the 4 that he saved. And now things get very dire. We need one of these 2 Novas to connect, and finally he does get a good connection on a couple of these Marauders. Don't forget that the extra upgrades have kicked in, so now the Zealots and the Stalkers are going to be a bit better. What a shame that they end up losing 3 more Disruptors there towards the end. Because sure, the initial wave of Disruptors wasn't all that great, but we all know that it's just a matter of time that one of them will connect. And it's like, okay, losing the base is problematic, losing all your Colossus is problematic, but at least the Zealots got some damage done on the other side of the map. And at first I was like, yeah, extra upgrades kicking in, Wardy. I didn't hate it. It wasn't good, but I didn't think it was problematic. But yeah, losing the extra Robo units is just very painful there towards the end.
Gets a ghost out of this Disruptor now, at least as we head into the next stage of this game, which is going to be a couple Liberators helping the push forward, helping the setup here of Oliveira. That Disruptor unfortunately gets donated unnecessarily. DTs are being caught, by the way, too. They're not doing too much. 6 workers, don't get me wrong, not bad, just feels like Cyan needs a whole bunch of stuff right now. We blink into this. The Disruptors will look to zone the bio back so the blink is safe. They got rid of 1 Liberator, but it's just a slow process for Cyan. He's got a long way to go. Oliveira is still splitting pretty well, but he might be overwhelmed here. This might be a bit too much Protoss. It feels like everything of the Protoss is on this bottom side, and this is going to be a portion of Oliveira's army.
Yep, I gotta say Oliveira's micro indeed has been very sexy against the Disruptors, as we had multiple beautiful splits. Terran players that are this good, they can kind of make it look effortless, like where it's like, oh, a couple units to the left, top, right. I was like, oh, dodged it, but we all know how difficult it is, and it's so easy to panic against these Novas flying forward, but Oliveira's making it look easy. Did definitely get a bit carried away towards all of that, especially because it was right before his own +3 kicking in, and he's got double starport. He's like maybe 30-45 seconds away from, instead of having 2 or 3 libs, you can start pushing with 6 or 7 Liberators, and that's where it becomes very hard for the Disruptor player to actually get in range of the bio and dream about big shots.
Yes, no, very, very true. Is we do have Science Force actually going aggressive up the right-hand side. There's maybe not enough medevacts to do the healing here, but like you say, if that Liberator can't rise, and it's going to be extremely difficult for Cyan to do much, especially, you know, aggressively, because Liberators are going to be amazing defensively, stopping you pushing into them. Yeah, well, you see more DTs moving around, although one just gets blown up by a mine. It feels like the defense of Oliveira has really been on point as well. Turrets in good places, a Liberator set up on this base. Everywhere DT's going, there's just an instant cleanup on it.
Cyan is going to go back into a couple of Colossus. I don't hate it, just to have some of that consistent damage and rely on the range of these Giraffes, as he also gets the Stargate, which he just needs, not just to eventually maybe fight the Liberators in the center of the map, but at this point, Liberators with advanced ballistics could start being used to harass as well. And if you don't have any Phoenixes or Void Rays there, that's just super annoying. Sometimes there is literally only 1 or 2 Stalkers that can attack a Liberator. Once in a blue moon, even not a single ground unit can attack a Liberator with advanced ballistics, so it makes sense to at least get the investment of the Stargate going. Cyan, I think at this point needs time because he's just down 30 army supply. And definitely has a good economy. Has nice ink almost. No, that Archon was blocking the Disruptors there. And Cyan loses a whole bunch of these Robo units for free. Well, that's not a way to climb up in the army supply.
No, that ain't it at all. And at the same time, Oliveira is setting up on the left side with an attack as well. We do actually find Disruptors over here that we split away from. Oliveira does not get the dive afterwards. Looks as though he's still focused on pushing the libs forward on the bottom right. He only got one of those Disruptors then, so I feel like that was even Cyan getting a little bit fortunate, although he is losing Disruptors over here. I mean, this bottom side push is definitely the real danger, and Oliveira is, well, he's going to deny this forward base, and these libs can just push further forward if they want to. In fact, they don't need to. The swords will come blinking down into them. This time the Disruptors, they force a split at an awkward time, but the split is still there, and another Disruptor drops, and the libs are going to move up yet again.
The only thing I would have loved to see from Oliveira there, what is leave one Ghost with the Liberators, so he could have landed an EMP on the Stalkers, because with these upgrades, the Liberators, 2-shot Stalkers after an EMP, they one-shot them, and an entire army would have melted. But none of that matters. I mean, look at Oliveira's macro. The man is still maxed out, still spending every single penny that he is earning with a beautiful push here at the bottom side. We'll take out this base one more time. And Cyan had an army that we thought was an intimidating, scary Protoss army. And yeah, it is against 2 or 3 Liberators, not against this many, as the Marines and the Marauders will stim forward. Stalkers dying, Disruptors dying, Colossus will fall, and that will do it. We are going to have a TVT Grand Finals in the ESL Masters Asia as the world champion.